Good morning, and welcome to another episode of A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm BC Cloutier, Chairman of Action for Life, and this is Father Michael Orsi. Good morning, Father.
Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm just terrific. How are you?
Well, so far, been a very nice new year.
Got that cold spell behind us. We're back to normal Southwest Florida weather. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I thought we were the 51st state already. It was so cold.
Yeah. Well, glad that's behind us. A lot of thoughts about immigration these days, Father, with the inauguration being tomorrow.
Right.
And I think, as is always the case, perhaps people have gone off the deep end about thinking what President-elect Trump and Tom Homan are going to do.
Right.
I happen to be reading an article online that was originally published in the Catholic Vote, and if I may, I'd just like to summarize it.
Sure. Yeah.
General Catholic teaching on immigration, the Catechism's perspective. Nations are obliged to welcome foreigners seeking security and livelihood, but that's not unconditional. Immigration should respect the common good, balancing natural rights and a nation's capacity to integrate newcomers.
Right.
It's important.
Yeah.
Political authorities have the right to regulate immigration to ensure societal stability and the common good. And immigrants are obliged to respect the laws, heritage, and civic responsibilities of the host country. So that's what the Catechism says.
Right.
St. Thomas Aquinas talks about the principle of common good, that immigration must benefit the common good, and states have the right to exclude individuals who might be harmful to society. And immigration should be regulated by law for fairness and order. Now, gradual integration is also something that St. Thomas Aquinas talked about, that immediate citizenship can be harmful to national unity, and assimilation often takes 2 to 3 generations. Then you have to balance charity and justice.
Right.
So immigration policy has to prioritize the unity and common good of the nation while extending charity to newcomers. I guess that we would all agree with that.
Of course.
Proportionate and lawful immigration enriches society while maintaining stability. So the conclusion of all this policy on Catholic teaching focuses on creating a cohesive society that upholds the common good and balances the rights and responsibilities of both citizens and immigrants. There are a lot of people that say, this is it, Trump's going to take 11 million people, put them on a plane and get them out of here. That's not going to happen.
No, I don't think so. It's impractical. First of all, it's very, very impractical. Secondly, quite honestly, folks, there are a lot of people here that are not here legally, but they do contribute to our society. And for those of us who live in Southwest Florida, we know how many probably illegal immigrants are working here in our restaurants, working here in
Lawn care.
Yeah, right, lawn care. Could you imagine what it would be like if we lost them all at once? So I think it's impractical. As a matter of fact, I mean, if you have people saying they all have to go back, and some of the numbers I'm seeing now, it might be as many as 20 million people. If they all got deported or all left, a lot of people don't have to wait to get deported. They're scared. And some people
self-deported.
Yeah, they'll self-deport. But we would be in big trouble here in Southwest Florida. And I'm sure it's also true for other states in the Union.
Father, it's true in the interior of the country. All of those meat packing plants in Iowa and Nebraska, it's immigrant labor that are doing those jobs because they're dirty, nasty jobs that Americans don't want.
Right.
But immigrants, in order to come here and build a life, are willing to do those jobs. So it's beneficial to everyone.
It sure is. So let's just, go back a step. There really should be a process by which people can come to this country. And there has been over the years, the process.
Sure.
We have immigration laws. And at one time we had quotas. Certain nationalities were allowed a certain number of people every year to come into the country because they wanted to help them to get integrated into the country gradually. This I know from experience. It happened especially to the Southern Europeans, the Italians, for instance. Now, how would I know about that? Well, they would have a certain quota that would come in. They would get on a list in Italy, and then as time passed, the list would be promoted, and new people would come in year after year. I had relatives come in on the quota, and there was a way to keep some kind of control over who was coming into the country. Look, folks, you have to have control of those who are coming into the country. You don't want criminals coming into the country. And as a matter of fact, just recently, talking about deportation, Senator Fetterman said, of course we should get rid of those people who are criminals or are causing crime in the United States. So, even someone like Fetterman says, yeah, let's use some common sense here and not allow dangerous people or criminals to come into the country. When they had the quota system, there were also ways that people would be accommodated when they came here. And usually they had to have a relative here or a friend here who was going to sponsor
them. Sure.
Sure. And, give them a place to stay and then to help to get them on their feet.
And to guarantee that they wouldn't be a part of the social burden.
Exactly. Because there's only so much the social structure can take.
Yeah.
I mean, just simple things like hospitals,
Schools.
Yeah. What do you do when you have a social structure that's unable to accommodate these people? Now, this is especially true if people are coming into this country that do not speak the language. The Italians, they didn't speak the Queen's English exactly in the beginning, but they learned. And they learned because they got integrated into America by family members, friends. Also, the schools were not overrun, so that they didn't have to worry about huge numbers of people not speaking English in the classroom, English as a second language, but they had accommodations to teach them English and to teach them civics, to understand that the structure of this country, our social structures, political structures, were different from where they came from.
I was going to say that, and we've talked about this before, in a lot of immigrant families, the head of the family insisted people speak English because they wanted to be assimilated into America, and they said, "We're American. We want to speak English."
That's right. I have firsthand experience of that because my father was born in Italy, and my mother was born in Brooklyn.
Well, that's almost Italy.
But the only time my father spoke fluently, naturally, but my mother didn't, and the only time she tried a little bit was when they didn't want me to understand what they were saying. However, his siblings, they learned to speak English. They got jobs in America, and my father and his two sisters, they went to school here in America. My father came when he was 16. The sisters were much younger, but they got integrated right away. Kids learn quickly, but the schools have to be able to accommodate that. I'm hearing that there are some school systems in our country that are inundated with foreign-speaking students, 10, 12 languages in a school. How do you accommodate that? It becomes very, very difficult. And then, of course, the whole education system suffers because of that. So, yeah, you do need the structures in place to handle immigration. Same thing with healthcare. If people don't have insurance and emergency rooms being inundated with people who are sick, perhaps people who were unvaccinated in their own country and are coming in here now bringing some diseases that we thought were eradicated, like, for instance, polio, smallpox, diphtheria, those diseases, measles, mumps. It becomes a burden on the medical care system. So we'll go back to Thomas Aquinas. Yeah, you have to be able to integrate these people into society in many, many ways, very practical ways, and then some ways that are going to benefit, especially them in the long run, because these people eventually want to make something of their lives, get an education, and become productive members of our society. So, we need immigrants. A nation, America is a nation of immigrants, but we do have to do it in a systematic way. Can we deport those who are problematic? The answer is yes. The answer is
As we
yes.
should.
As we should. As we should, because they are a danger to our society and a drain on our society. So, once again, I must agree with St. Thomas Aquinas. Folks, quite honestly, if you ever want to get a good understanding of Catholic social teaching, go look at Thomas Aquinas. He'll talk about some important things when we talk about Catholic social teaching, the dignity of the person. You treat everybody with dignity. Okay? Even those criminals, I mean, you don't just go shoot them in the street or cage them like animals, but give them the respect that they deserve, go through the process, and then send them home. Okay? The dignity of the person, the common good. This is an important Catholic social teaching, the common good. What does that mean? What is good for everybody? Everybody. That means the people that are here and the people that are arriving here. You have to keep in mind both sides of this, and don't say, oh, you're just being mean, not letting these people in. No, you're concerned about your citizens that are already here and have contributed to making America what America is supposed to be. Right?
Well, there's a real dichotomy that some of the major cities are so-called sanctuary cities, and yet they are bleeding red ink because of all the immigrants that they are supporting in hotel rooms and all the other stuff. It's nonsensical.
Well, you can't do it. Go take a look once again at Manhattan, New York City. And even Mayor Adams is saying, we can't do this anymore. You just can't do it. Look, folks, let's be honest. I think all of us, 99% of us, want to be nice people. We want to help other people. But sometimes it's just not practicable. And what we have to do is do the best we can. Do the best we can in order to have a fair immigration system, Let as many Italians in as they want to come. That's fair. You just think of, all those people you let in, that they could do all the, cooking in the restaurants, and they could do all the artwork, right?
Well, Trump and Prime Minister Maloney have developed a relationship. Is that her name, Maloney?
Maloney, right? yeah.
They've developed a relationship.
Not Maloney. That's the Irish Maloney.
Right.
This is Meloni.
Yeah.
Georgia Maloney.
She's an interesting lady, and she and Trump have bonded already.
They really have. They really have.
I want to talk about the Dreamers, but first, let's take a break. We'll be back right after this. Join us March 22nd at the beautiful Vineyards Country Club for our annual Spring for Life luncheon. It's the 50th anniversary of the founding of Action for Life. Our featured speaker for this year's celebration luncheon is Sister Mary Gabriel, a member of the Sisters of Life. Sisters of Life is a religious community founded by John Cardinal O'Connor and dedicated to the protection and enhancement of the sacredness of human life. Please mark your calendar, 11:30 a.m., March 22nd, as Action for Life celebrates 50 years of dedication to the sanctity of life. Seating is limited, so get your tickets today at actionforlife.org. But for the moment, I'd like to talk to you about the expense of airing this program. Many people don't realize how expensive it is to produce this program and to get it on the air. Would you care to guess? It's about $3,000 per week. We think that's a reasonable expenditure, but obviously it's an expensive one. So we need to ask for your help. If you'll go to actionforlife.org and click on the donate button, it would be greatly appreciated. Now, you can donate once or you can donate each month. And we certainly have viewers who do both. We appreciate that. Please take time now to visit actionforlife.org and click on the donate button. Thank you so much for your support, and may God bless you always. Welcome back to A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm BC Cloutier. Father, before the break, I mentioned dreamers, which are defined as people who came to this country illegally as children. So they did not make the decision, their parents did.
Right.
They, in most instances, have fully assimilated into society. In many instances, the dreamers don't even speak their native language.
Right.
They are through and through American, but they do not hold citizenship.
That's right.
And it's a very, very vexing problem that I think goes back to probably Reagan in terms of the politics involved in it.
Okay. Let's talk about these dreamers.
Dreamers came here as children,
Right.
and so they were unintentional illegal aliens.
Right.
Bad term, but you get the point.
Right. Okay. True that they were brought in here. They were brought in here by their parents, but now they've lived here for most of their lives, and some of them certainly into adulthood. It would be, in my opinion, criminal to try to send these people back to their own country.
Absolutely.
Okay. They are, for all intents and purposes, they are Americans, and they deserve to be recognized as American citizens. To send these people back would be heartbreaking, and as a matter of fact, I think it would be a political disaster to do that. I think it would be a political disaster to do something like that.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So I think it's time they say, well, look, they're here. We allowed them to stay here this long. Let me give you this analogy, folks. You have people coming to this country illegally, right? They came here. They stayed here. Nobody told them to leave. Right? It would be like, you open your front door and you say to people, come on in and use my house. As a matter of fact, you're even going to give them use of your credit card. And you're going to say to them, I accept you as part of the family. Okay. Years pass, and then somebody else comes and says, hey, wait a minute. This is not your house. You got to get out of here. Well, there comes a point where you do have some rights to remain where you are if you were invited into the house, right? And I'm not talking about squatters. I mean, if a squatter is an uninvited person who walks into the house, but people that, have been made to feel like they are welcome and they have shared then in the life of the family for 10, 20, 30 years.
And a lot of these kids who are no longer kids, they're
Right.
well into their 30s, and I think in some cases into their 40s, are Many are very successful. They're attorneys, they're engineers, they're healthcare professionals. They have contributed to society, and we owe them a debt of gratitude.
That's
I
right.
think.
I agree with you. I agree with you. So, folks, believe me, we're not talking about somebody squatting and running into your house and taking it over. We're talking about people, we've been here. It's kind of like a tacit approval of saying, come on, we didn't do anything to you. We didn't come after you. We didn't prosecute you. We didn't do anything. And now all of a sudden, 30 years later, we've changed our mind. Now, folks, that's playing games. And that's not respecting the dignity of the person. And, sometimes a law becomes a law, not because it was legally enacted, but because it was presumed to be the law over a long period of time. So it's just kind of the natural progression of a legal system that didn't vote on something, but in effect, it was allowed and presumed to be okay.
You have presented a natural segue here, Father. Now, at this point, let me say to the audience, people say, oh, you guys, we love watching you and Father Orsi. We do not rehearse this program. This is
You
truly,
can tell.
Yeah, I guess you can. This is truly a conversation between Father Orsi and me. So the segue just happens. But the next thing on my mind is birthright citizenship, which is a much thornier issue. Talk about that a little bit, if you would.
Birthright citizenship means that if someone is born in this country, in other words, their parents, their mother comes from China and comes here, has the baby here in America, that baby automatically becomes an American citizen. That's what that means.
And that's happening every day.
Every day. As a matter of fact, we hear stories about this happening.
Very big in Los Angeles.
Professional organizations
Right.
are involved with letting this happen, okay? So therefore, the child has the rights of an American citizen and can even be taken back, say, to China and then come back later on.
And has dual citizenship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, where does this come from? It comes from the 14th Amendment, where the 14th Amendment says that anyone born in America is an American citizen, has the full rights of an American citizen. However, folks, 14th Amendment was enacted to correct the injustices of slavery. And it was enacted after the Civil War. I think it was enacted in 1865, I think. But well, you could take a look at the date yourself. But it began to be interpreted. Well, first of all, it was for the slaves. It meant for the slaves. Any person born in America, and that meant for the slaves, they have the rights of an American citizen. And therefore, slavery having been abolished, the slaves, former slaves, their families, their children, they have all the rights of an American citizen. That's what that means. Did it mean, somebody coming from China or from Italy or from India, didn't have to mean that. It's the way it was interpreted. And that's what we get back to, what we said a few moments ago before we segued into this. It didn't have to mean that because it simply meant those slaves that were born here. 14th Amendment was not thinking of, and I'm an originalist, what was the original intent? And the original intent was for the slaves. It then got interpreted as meaning anybody born here, and it has been accepted that way for these last from 1865 on, that it means anybody who was born here, as long as they were born on American soil.
Well, I would guess that at some point, probably at the turn of the 20th century, that was politically very popular.
Sure.
And so politicians had a reason to interpret the 14th Amendment in a way that pleased their constituents.
Right.
So much of our laws in America are not necessarily practical. They're what would get politicians voted back into office.
Yes. Yes.
And it feels like that is one of those instances.
Right. The question now is, can it change?
Right.
And
Can it?
Yes, it can change but you need legislation to change it. And you have to go through the process of saying, let us define what this means, that somebody born here is automatically a citizen.
So let me
The originalists will
understand
say
this.
it goes back to slavery and it applied to the African Americans. Because over these 150 years, all of a sudden we say, wait a minute, it didn't really mean that. But it would have to go through a legislative process to say, no, this is what it means. It meant for the African Americans that were born here, it did not apply to foreigners. And now we're going to change the legislation to say that is no longer what we believe or what the law teaches.
So that would not require an amendment to the amendment. It would require legislative action.
Yeah, legislative action. That's right.
Well, that's interesting,
Yeah.
Given that we have a thin Republican majority in both houses of Congress and a Republican administration, and they're dealing with immigration. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. We're pretty much at the end of the program, Father. Final thoughts?
Yeah, well, folks, this immigration issue, it's a thorny issue. I think we're going to be in for some really rocky times over the next couple of years to see how this is going to work out. We want it to work out for the good of everybody. We want it to work out for the good of the immigrants that want to come to America. God bless them. They're not fighting to get into China.
Amen.
They want to come here. Let's help them as much as we can. On the other hand, we have to protect America. Protect our values, our institutions. In doing that, can we come to something that will be amicable for all involved? I think we can. It's going to take time, a lot of listening, and I think probably a lot more goodwill on both sides.
We'll see what happens in the coming days, weeks, and months. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you'll join us again next Sunday, same time, same place. Until then, I'm BC Cloutier saying thank you and have a great week. God bless. Join us March 22nd at the beautiful Vineyards Country Club for our annual Spring for Life luncheon. It's the 50th anniversary of the founding of Action for Life. Our featured speaker for this year's celebration luncheon is Sister Mary Gabriel, a member of the Sisters of Life. Sisters of Life is a religious community founded by John Cardinal O'Connor and dedicated to the protection and enhancement of the sacredness of human life. Please mark your calendar, 11:30 a.m., March 22nd, as Action for Life celebrates 50 years of dedication to the sanctity of life. Seating is limited, so get your tickets today at actionforlife.org.